On October 23, 2025, the NBA didn't just face a scandal, it suffered a full-blown earthquake that cracked open the foundation of the sport. It was supposed to be a normal morning, the kind where players trickled into training facilities with headphones on. Coaches reviewed film, and beat reporters wrote harmless previews about upcoming matchups. But that illusion evaporated the moment helicopters swarmed above multiple cities, shining spotlights onto arenas as if hunting for fugitives. Within minutes, federal agents were battering down doors, storming locker rooms, blocking exits, and escorting stunned NBA personnel. Fans watching live TV weren't sure whether they were witnessing breaking news or the opening scene of a Hollywood crime thriller. Nothing felt real, yet everything was happening right in front of them. Shock consumed the basketball world as a headline blazed across every screen. FBI launches multi-state raids tied to NBA corruption ring. The chaos spread like wildfire. Reporters scrambled. Social media crumbled under the weight of millions of posts. Players called their agents in panic. Coaches went silent, and the league office slammed shut its doors, offering no comment. A sport built on speed, spectacle, and superstardom suddenly found itself drowning in secrecy and suspicion. For years, fans believed they were watching pure competition late-game heroics, buzzer beaters, rivalries carved into basketball folklore. But as the truth began to unravel, a disturbing question echoed through every household. Had the games been real at all? The answer, as investigators soon revealed, the first clue came from a forgotten game. 2 years earlier, March 23, 2023, Miami Heat versus New York Knicks. Nothing special, nothing historic, but a single moment from that night would later become the spark that ignited the entire investigation. Terry Rozier entered that game fully healthy, sprinting during warm-ups, grinning on the bench, showing no signs of discomfort. But 9 minutes into the first quarter, something bizarre happened. He simply sat down, removed his shoe, glanced at his foot, and never returned to the game. No limp, no pain, no medical staff rushing toward him, no evaluation, nothing that resembled a legitimate injury. A sports doctor reviewing the footage in 2025 concluded that Rozier showed zero biomechanical signs of injury, not even subtle discomfort. Yet sportsbooks across the country had seen more than 259,000 placed on Rozier under his projected numbers, bets made only hours before tip-off. At the time, the anomaly was brushed aside. But now, with the FBI involved, it became obvious. March 23rd wasn't an accident. It was a warning sign the world missed. As investigators dug deeper, they found that Rozier's mysterious game wasn't an isolated incident. Other footage resurfaced games where Rozier played uncharacteristically poorly, missing wide-open shots, committing inexplicable turnovers, and hesitating in ways that didn't align with his skill level. Fans had originally shrugged these moments off as bad nights, but under the lens of a national investigation, they appeared more like breadcrumbs, leading to a much bigger conspiracy. The FBI soon connected these irregularities to illicit betting patterns across multiple states, identifying specific wagers that correlated perfectly with unexpected performances, suspicious substitutions, and unexplained injuries. Something was terribly wrong. But the NBA's nightmare wasn't limited to betting irregularities. On the morning of October 23rd, as federal agents executed warrants across 11 states, the world learned that this scandal was far larger, far deeper, and far more dangerous than anyone feared. Two massive investigations, Operation Royal Flush and Operation Nothing But Bet were revealed to the public. What originally seemed like unrelated criminal networks soon merged into one sprawling web of corruption. Operation Royal Flush focused on a mafia-connected poker empire spreading quietly across Nevada, California, and Arizona. The investigation uncovered poker tables, embedded with X-ray sensors, altered shuffling machines that transmitted card sequences to remote servers, and infrared-marked decks readable only through custom lenses. There were micro-cameras in ceiling vents, artwork, even lamp fixtures capturing every card, every chip, every reaction. What looked like a friendly private poker game was, in reality, a perfectly choreographed illusion where victims lost millions before realizing what hit them. And hovering behind the curtain were the infamous Bonino Gambino, Genovese, and Lucchese, families for corners of American organized crime operating a unified underground casino network. Their reach was massive. Their methods were ruthless. and their victims ranged from wealthy businessmen to unsuspecting professional athletes caught in games. They could never win. Operation Nothing But Bet, however, struck directly at the NBA's heart. This second investigation centered on insider information injury. Reports leaked before they were public. Private shoot-around results secretly relayed to betting syndicates. Lineup changes communicated through coded messages, and in extreme cases, subtle on-court influences used to sway prop bets. The operation relied not on technology, but on access, coaches, staffers, agents, and occasionally players who had valuable information and were willing to exchange it for money, power, or protection. The FBI discovered encrypted group chats, burner phones hidden in locker rooms, and offshore betting accounts tied to intermediaries who moved millions with a few taps on their screens. And then came the moment that stopped the basketball world cold. Live helicopter footage captured federal agents escorting Chauncey Billups' Hall of Famer, beloved figure, Portland Trail Blazers head coach out of a training facility in handcuffs. Fans watching the broadcast couldn't process what they were seeing. Billups, a respected leader known for composure and integrity, was suddenly at the center of one of the darkest scandals in sports history, according to investigators within this fictional storyline. Billups served as a face card in the poker operation His Presence, lending legitimacy to games secretly controlled by organized crime families. Wealthy victims felt comfortable betting against him, never suspecting the tables were rigged or the outcomes predetermined. When the footage of his arrest went viral, the internet split in half: those who refused to believe it, and those who claimed they saw signs all along. The chaos deepened when Terry Rozier was arrested shortly after landing at Miami's practice facility. Fans at the scene watched in horror as agents approached him directly on the tarmac. He didn't resist. He didn't argue. He simply looked exhausted, as if he'd been carrying a secret far heavier than any scoring drought or losing streak. His charges were tied to insider prop bet manipulations, specifically the now infamous March 23rd game, in which he allegedly coordinated a staged injury to allow associates to cash in on targeted wagers. When news broke that he posted his $6 million home as collateral to secure release, the world realized how severe the allegations truly were. Former NBA player and assistant coach Damon Jones soon followed, accused of leaking confidential locker room information from undisclosed injuries to practice results to criminal networks operating through intermediaries. As the list of arrests grew, so did the horror. Over 30 individuals across 11 states were taken into custody, including bookmakers, technology specialists, casino insiders, and individuals connected to two of the most powerful crime families in New York. Organized crime had infiltrated the NBA through backdoors no one even knew existed. Then came a twist. Nobody could have predicted. The internet exploded with the phrase Toronto Rangers, a mispronounced team name from a viral video, spiraled into chaos. Fans created fake jerseys, imaginary rosters, absurd mascots, and satirical championship banners. For a brief moment, memes drowned out the panic. But the laughter stopped the moment. Online detectives began rewatching old game footage, compiling clips that suddenly looked suspicious: missed dunks, mistimed passes, rotations that made no sense, free throw routines that appeared coded. What began as comedy morphed into dread. For the first time, fans weren't just hearing about corruption, they were seeing it as more footage resurfaced. An old podcast clip from 2023 went viral. Professional poker player Matt Berkey discussing rumors of rigged celebrity poker games involving Chauncey Billups. At the time, the comments seemed like harmless gossip. But now, when placed next to federal documents alleging mafia-controlled poker rings, Berkey's comments felt chillingly prophetic. He mentioned friends who had been invited to exclusive games in Los Angeles and Las Vegas cities, now confirmed as hubs in Operation Royal Flush. His friends, Berkey claimed, noticed strange patterns, impossible winning streaks, unnatural shuffling rhythms, players who seemed to know outcomes before cards were revealed. The clip spread like wildfire, fueling theories that the scandal's roots stretched back years, possibly even before the Rozier game, and the connection didn't stop there. Investigators revealed links to the fictionalized 2024 John T. Porter betting case, suggesting the corruption was not a sudden explosion, but a slow, calculated infiltration years in the making. Patterns in betting. data travel logs, and communication records lined up with disturbing precision. As if someone had been mapping out the league's blind spots long before anyone realized those blind spots existed. The NBA, in its pursuit of billion-dollar betting partnerships, had unknowingly created a playground for opportunists. Legalized gambling brought in revenue, excitement, and global attention. But it also attracted criminal networks, skilled at slipping into systems no one bothered to secure. And in this fictional universe, one anonymous investigator summed it up with chilling clarity. The problem wasn't that the league trusted too much. It's that they trusted the wrong people, the ones who knew exactly how to bend the system from the inside out. By the time the dust settled, one truth hovered over the NBA like a storm cloud. The scandal was far from over. What the world had just witnessed wasn't justice being served. It was merely a door cracking open. The arrests were only phase one, the tip of a much deeper iceberg the FBI insisted had been forming for years. Behind the courtrooms, the headlines, and the televised press conferences, there were names, dozens of them sealed away in confidential files. Names belonging to people the public never imagined could be involved. Coaches who once preached discipline and integrity, team employees trusted with data, locker rooms, and back offices unnoticed. Federal agents hinted carefully, deliberately, that these sealed names weren't low-level players in the scheme. They were potential power brokers, gatekeepers, insiders who understood the NBA's infrastructure from the inside out. And although no charges had been filed against them, the mere possibility shook the sports. Whirled to its core, sources close to the investigation whispered that the FBI had obtained encrypted messages, digital payment trails, offshore connections, and private game recordings that might reveal far more than the public had been told. It wasn't just about gambling anymore, they suggested. It was about influence, access. Hidden networks operating behind the glittering facade of a billion-dollar league. Meanwhile, panic rippled quietly through front offices across the country. Executives scheduled late-night meetings behind closed doors. Attorneys advised silence. Public relations teams drafted statements just in case. Whether anyone on their payroll had ever been mentioned, overheard, or loosely associated with the individuals who had already been arrested. And for the first time in years, the NBA appeared vulnerable not from declining ratings or player controversies, but from an internal fracture that threatened the very foundation of trust between the league and its fans. The idea that corruption could be hiding in plain sight unsettled everyone. What else had gone unnoticed? How many warning signs had been dismissed over the years as random anomalies or harmless coincidences? Reporters dug deeper, sensing that another wave of revelations was coming. Anonymous sources hinted that the investigation might expand beyond gambling into areas no one wanted to imagine. People who had once walked freely through arenas, shaking hands, smiling for cameras, answering questions with polished ease, now did so under the weight of suspicion. Even those completely innocent felt the shadow following them. But perhaps the most unsettling part was the FBI's final message. More arrests are imminent. They said it calmly, almost routinely, yet the words struck like an earthquake. Because if Phase 1 had already rocked the sports world, what exactly would Phase 2 bring? And how many more truths were still waiting to emerge from the darkness? The NBA tried to project stability, but beneath the surface, everyone knew the real storm hadn't even hit yet. And now, as the world tries to absorb the magnitude of what happened, one final question lingers, a question that haunts the league and everyone who ever loved the game. If this much corruption was hiding in plain sight, then what else is still buried beneath the surface? Because scandals don't grow overnight. Networks this big don't appear from thin air. They build quietly, patiently, like cracks crawling beneath a polished floor, silent until the day everything collapses. And the NBA, for all its global fame and billion-dollar partnerships, suddenly feels like a structure built on hollow steel, one loud enough to echo, but fragile enough to split wide open. The cameras may have stopped rolling, the federal agents may have left the arenas, the flashing red and blue lights may have faded from the tunnel walls, but that doesn't mean the danger has passed. If anything, this silence feels more threatening than the chaos that came before it. Whispers travel through locker rooms. Anonymous sources leak half-truths to reporters. Agents make phone calls they hope will never be traced. And behind closed doors, The league's most powerful executives conduct meetings with no notes, no recordings, and no certainty about where the storm will strike next. Because somewhere out there, right now, people are running. People who know what they did, people who know what they saw. People who got rich in the shadows and were smart enough to disappear before the spotlight swung their way. The FBI has made over 30 arrests, but their own officials admit publicly that this is only the beginning. That phrase alone has sent shockwaves through the entire sports world. Who is still hiding? Who is still manipulating? Fans watch old highlights with new suspicion. Every missed shot suddenly looks too deliberate. Every injury looks too convenient. Every substitution looks too perfectly timed. It feels as if the entire history of the last few seasons has been thrown into question. And for the first time, some fans are whispering something unthinkable. Did we ever truly watch real basketball? But the most chilling truth is this: every major scandal has a second act. Every conspiracy has a deeper layer. Every crime ring has a mastermind you don't see until the very end. And as investigators push deeper into encrypted accounts, offshore betting logs, deleted messages, and private team communications, they know they're circling something even larger than what they've already uncovered.